We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills.
Retro. Go. Vital. Go. Guys, go. Patrol. Go. Gypsy. Go. Rocky County. Surgeon. Go.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
On July 16, 1969, the world watched as the Saturn V launched Apollo 11 into space from Cape Kennedy in Florida. One of humanity's greatest achievements, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins would embark on an 8-day journey to the moon and back, 240,000 miles away. After decades of preparation and research, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin would become the first humans to step foot on another world, cementing America as the victors of the space race. 12 years of technological warfare between the world's two largest superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union. Man's journey to the moon would become the defining moment of the second half of the 20th century. Kennedy began the 60s, claiming man would reach the moon by the end of the decade, and 8 short years later, that claim would become reality. But unfortunately, Kennedy was not alive to see it. But why was it so important to go? Why did America have to send a man to the moon? During the Second World War, Hitler's plans were being undertaken. Under the guidance of scientist and engineer Wernher von Braun, Germany had developed the world's first ballistic missile, the V-2 rocket. At the end of the war, Operation Paperclip began, in which thousands of German scientists were recruited to the United States. Von Braun and his team were sent to the US in September 1945, accompanied by 15 tons of paperwork and more than 100 V-2 rockets. Von Braun would continue to work on the V-2 rocket for the US military, increasing its performance and refining the systems that controlled its flight. These rockets and the lessons learned from their creation would become the bedrock of NASA's spaceflight technology. At the end of the Second World War, however, the Cold War had begun. Both the United States and Soviet Union knew this war would be won by technology. With missiles on both sides reaching higher and higher altitudes, it would no longer be just a race. It was a competition between two civilizations, capitalism versus communism, the free world versus the unfree world, with the ultimate symbol of superiority being the conquest of space. But the Soviet Union were winning. On October 4th, 1957, they launched Sputnik 1 into orbit, the world's first artificial satellite. America was shocked. The Soviet Union had beaten them to the first hurdle. As the Soviet satellite traveled over their heads every hour and a half, America felt humiliated. To make matters worse, 1 month later, Sputnik 2 was launched, and for the first time would send life into orbit, her small dog named Laika. The satellite would remain in orbit for 162 days, with Laika dying just hours into the mission. There was never a plan to bring her home. America had to respond. On December 6, 1957, they looked to the Vanguard and tried to launch a satellite of their own, but it ends in failure, exploding at takeoff. America's prestige was falling. Von Braun and his team were then tasked with launching a satellite into orbit within 60 days. On the 31st of January, 1958, Explorer 1 was successfully launched, orbiting the Earth 12 times a day. Later that year in July, Dwight Eisenhower signed the National Aeronautics and Space Act, establishing NASA. This new organization would become the forefront in space exploration technology. NASA put von Braun to work, and for the first time it seemed like America could win. They were going to take the lead. Landing on the moon was now the goal. But on the 12th of April, 1961, Yuri Gagarin, a Soviet cosmonaut, became the first human to orbit the Earth. Gagarin was hailed a hero. showed to the world as something the Soviet communist system could achieve. America was once again humiliated. The weight of the world seemed to be on the shoulders of the White House. The Soviet Union had launched into orbit a human being and the largest satellites of the time. The free world for the first time was lagging behind the communist states. Something had to be done. One month later, on the 5th of May 1961, the United States responds with Project Mercury, sending astronaut Alan Shepard into space, the first American to do so. But that wasn't enough. Kennedy wanted to show the world that the United States, with their freedom and prosperity, could supersede all Soviet achievement. America and the Western world had been the pioneers of the Industrial Revolution and modern invention, and they couldn't now give up. They couldn't lose what past generations had worked so hard to achieve. They had to pioneer one of the greatest adventures of all time. And so they would build, experiment, try and fail. The American machine was put to work, and the best minds of the world were assembled together. America was going to send a man to the moon, and they were going to succeed.
All right, lift off and the clock is started. This is Sam 7, reading it loud and clear.
Godspeed, John Glenn.
Roger, 0G, and I feel fine. Capsule is turning around. Oh, that view is tremendous.
President Kennedy begins a tour of 4 space installations at Huntsville, Alabama, where he is greeted by Dr. Werner von Braun, space pioneer and director of this research and development center.
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth. No single space project in this period will be more impressive to mankind or more important for the long-range exploration of space, and none will be so difficult or expensive to accomplish.
The Gemini 8 flight. 2 vehicles dock for the first time in space.
Never in all of history have so many people shared an adventure of such magnitude.
Gemini, the bridge to Apollo, used a more advanced vehicle carrying 2 crewmen. Its goals: test the skills and endurance of the astronauts and practice the rendezvous and docking procedures and other maneuvers for the moon voyage.
Okay, I'm out. Okay, you're down. Okay, put a little roll in, take it right out. Okay, I rolled off and I'm rolling to the right now. Under my own influence. There goes it. Looks like a thermal glove, Jim. It is, yes. Okay, I'm coming over. It looks beautiful. I feel like $1 million. Now go to the alert study. And for all the people back on Earth, the crew of Apollo 8 has a message that we would like to send to you. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good, and divided the light from the darkness. And from the crew of Apollo 8, we close with good night, good luck, a Merry Christmas, and God bless all of you on the good earth.
After a decade of hard work, with science and engineering being pushed to its limits, the Saturn V was ready. It stood over 100 meters tall and fully fueled weighed more than 6.5 million pounds, or 3 million kilograms, the equivalent of 400 elephants. Attached to the bottom of the Saturn V and clustered together laid 5 F1 engines. Each engine would burn 3 tons of fuel a second, providing the initial thrust to lift the rocket off the ground. In total, they would burn for 2.5 minutes, and combined generated a staggering 160 million horsepower and 7.5 million pounds of thrust. To this day, the Saturn V remains the most powerful rocket ever built. The 4 outer engines were also able to move, steering the rocket in the right direction if it veered off target. The Saturn V was also comprised of different engines, with each exhaust configured to work best in different atmospheres. The first stage engines were designed for maximum efficiency in thicker air, lifting the heavy rocket off the ground. The second stage engines were optimized for thinner air and higher altitudes, and the third stage was optimized for no air at all. As each stage was completed, the rockets would become lighter and lighter, allowing the journey to the moon to use as little fuel as possible. NASA also kept safety in mind. The astronauts would stay in a small capsule on top of the Saturn V called the Command Module. Connected to the Command Module was the Launch Escape Tower. If the rocket would fail or falter and the crew were in danger, the escape tower would pull the Command Module out of harm's way and carry them towards the sea. As July 16th came round, the world would watch a rocket the same weight as a warship lift off the ground and propelled into space. The Saturn V, put simply, is one of the greatest technological achievements of all time, and one of the most impressive things man has ever built, remaining to this day the most powerful vehicle in human history.
T-minus 1 minute, 35 seconds on the Apollo mission, the flight to land of the first men on the moon. All indications coming in to the control center at this time indicate we are go. 1 minute, 25 seconds and counting. Our status board indicates the third stage completely pressurized. 30-second mark has now been passed. We'll go on full internal power at the 50-second mark in the countdown. We're approaching the 60-second mark on the Apollo 11 mission. T-minus 60 seconds and counting. We passed T-minus 60. 55 seconds and counting. Neil Armstrong just reported back. It's been a real smooth countdown. We passed the 50-second mark. Power transfer is complete. We're on internal power with the launch vehicle at this time. 40 seconds away from the Apollo 11 liftoff. All the second stage tanks now pressurized. 35 seconds and counting. We are still go with Apollo 11. 30 seconds and counting. Astronauts report it feels good. T-minus 25 seconds. 20 seconds and counting. T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12. 11, all engine running. Below it on our proper heading. Last 30 seconds. Control mode.
Altitude's 2 miles.
Oh, over Houston, you're good at one night.
Downrange 1 mile, altitude 4 miles now. Velocity 2,195 feet per second.
Mrs. Houston, you are go for staging. 11 Houston, thrust is go. All engines, you're looking good. All right, you're not very good.
Downrange 140 miles, altitude 62 miles, velocity 10,300 feet per second.
As the first and second stages were completed, the third stage had begun. An injection burn, the thrust that would propel them on their 3-day journey to the moon.
Apollo 11, this is Houston. You are go for TLI, over. Mission confirmed, thrust is go, 11.
Downrange 1,000 miles, altitude 101 miles, velocity 23,128 feet per second.
11 Houston, could you describe what you're looking at, over? Roger, you're seeing Earth as we see it on our left-hand window, just a little more than a half Earth. We're looking at the eastern Pacific Ocean and the north half of the top half of the screen. We can see North America, Alaska, United States, Canada, Mexico, and Central America. We can see the ocean with a definite blue tab. The white bands of major cloud formations across the Earth.
This is Apollo. Our network controller has just advised that we are receiving live television. This extremely sharp, clear picture is coming to us from about 175,000 miles distance from Earth, presently about 48,000 miles from the moon. It appears now that we have a view of Earth out the window.
11 Houston, if that's not the Earth, we're in trouble. I had to take Mike Collins there. You got a little bit of, hello there, sports fans. You got a little bit of bait, but Neil's the center couch and Buzz is doing the camera work this time. We are very comfortable up here, though. We do have a happy home. There's plenty of room for the three of us, and I think we're all learning to find our favorite little corner to sit in. And it is very comfortable, but after a while, you get to the point where you're sitting and tired of rattling around and banging off the ceiling and the floor and the ride, so you tend to find a little corner somewhere and put your knees up or something like that to wedge yourself in, and then seems more at home. Well, looks like it's probably almost your dinner time down there, Earth. We'll show you our food cabinet here in a second. 11 Houston, we see a box full of goodies there, over. Oh, we really have them, Charlie. We got all kinds of good stuff. We've got coffee up here in the upper left, and tray of breakfast items, bacon in little small bites, and beverages like fruit drink. And it is sort of down in a dark corner, so we have a flashlight here to help us see things. And if I can let go of it carefully, it'll hold itself right where it is. Paul 11, he said pretty good demonstration. You started out really stable there, Mike. No matter how carefully you let go, you bumped it just a tiny little bit, set it in motion, and once in motion, there's
This is Apollo Control at 75 hours 26 minutes. We're 15 minutes away from loss of signal. Apollo 11 is 966 miles from the moon. Velocity 6,511 feet per second.
The landing site chose with an level area, once thought to be an ocean, Mare Tranquillitatis, the Sea of Tranquility.
And we've had lots of signal as Apollo 11 goes behind the moon. So we're getting a beautiful picture in down here now, 11. The colors coming in quite clearly, and we can see the horizon and the relative blackness of space. Yes, it's a very beautiful and rugged sight that we've got on the screen now.
There you have it, our first glimpse of the lunar surface during the Apollo 11 mission.
The lunar module was then undocked from the command module, where micro-axial would remain in orbit. As the astronauts descended, tensions were forced them to have to abort the mission. But they had simulated this scenario hundreds of times in training. Everything that could possibly go wrong had been prepared for.
Okay, program alarm. 1202. 1202. Give us a reading on the 1202 program alarm.
Halfway down to the moon's surface, a 1202 program alarm sounded. A faulty radar unit was bombarding the onboard guidance computer with tasks. They would go for landing.
Roger, we got you. We're going at alarm. Roger, copy. Go, Houston, you're a go for landing, over. Roger, understand. Go for landing. 3,000 feet. Top alarm. 1201. 1201. Roger, 1201 alarm. We're go. Same type. We're go. 2,000 feet. 2,000 feet. Into the ag, 47 degrees. Roger.
The module then began to take them towards a field of steep slopes and giant boulders, armed with no screen, altitude and descent rate. 16 different thrusters would fire as he tried to slow the Eagle down and glide it towards the moon's surface. If he couldn't do so in time, they would crash and die upon impact.
5.5 pounds. 160, 6.5 pounds. 5.5 pounds. 9 forward. Good. 1020 feet. 100 feet, 3.5 down. 9 forward. 5%. How many fight? 75 feet. They're looking good, down a half. 6 forward. 60 seconds. Lights on. 6. Down 2.5. Forward. Forward. That's 40 feet, down 2.5. Picking up some dust. 30 feet, 2.5 down. Straight shadow. Eagle. Listen, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. Roger, Tranquility. We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot.
They landed with around 15 seconds of fuel remaining. In utter silence, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin turned to each other. Accomplished.
And we're getting a picture on the TV.
Around 69, Neil Armstrong would emerge from the Eagle. Buzz Aldrin would record Neil from inside the Eagle, as too would a TV camera mounted to the side of the lunar module. This would be the camera that televised to some 600 million people, a fifth of the world's population, Neil Armstrong's first steps upon the moon.
Okay, Neil, we can see you coming down the ladder now. I'm at the foot of the ladder. The LEM footbeds are only depressed in the surface about 1 or 2 inches. Although the surface appears to be very, very fine-grained as you get close to it. It's almost like powder. I'm going to step off the LEM now. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. As the surface is fine and powdery, I can pick it up loosely with my toe. It does adhere in fine layers, like powdered charcoal, to the sole and sides of my boot.
One's greatest technological. You could return home with samples.
Neil, this is Houston. Did you copy about the contingency sample over? I tried to get a rock in here. Just a couple. I have a beautiful video. It has a stark beauty all its own. It's like much of the high desert of the United States. It's different, but it's very pretty out here.
Around on the surface of the moon.
I want to back up and partially close the hatch, making sure not to lock it on my way out.
Particularly good gun.
That's our home for the next couple hours. We want to take good care of it. Beautiful view.
Isn't that something? Magnificent sight out here.
Magnificent desolation.
They would then walk to read the plaque on the base of the Eagle, a graceful and how message.
For those who haven't read the plaque, we'll read the plaque that's on the front landing gear of this LEM. There's 2 hemispheres, one showing each of the 2 hemispheres of Earth. Underneath it says, "Dear men from the planet Earth, first step foot upon the moon, July 1969, GT. Be keen and peace with all mankind." I believe they're setting up the flag now.
An American flag was then planted, supported by wires so the cloth wouldn't hang limp.
Tranquility Base, this is Houston. Can we get both of you on the camera for a minute, please? Neil and Buzz, the President of the United States is in his office now and would like to say a few words to you. Over. That would be an honor. Go ahead, Mr. President. This is Houston out.
Hello, Neil and Buzz. I'm talking to you by telephone from the Oval Room at the White House. And this certainly has to be the most historic telephone call
ever made from the White House. I just can't tell you how proud we all are of what you have done. For every American, this has to be the proudest day of our lives. And for people all over the world, I am sure that they too join with Americans in recognizing what an immense feat this is. Because of what you have done, the heavens have become a part of man's world. And as you talk to us from the Sea of Tranquility, it inspires us to redouble our efforts to bring peace and tranquility to earth. For one priceless moment in the whole history of man, all the people on this earth are truly one. One in their pride in what you have done, and one in our prayers that you will return safely to earth.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a great honor and privilege for us to be here representing not only the United States, but and of peace of all nations, and with interest and a curiosity and with the vision for the future. Honor for us to be able to participate here today. And thank you very much, and I look forward, all of us look forward to seeing you on the Hornet on Thursday. I look forward to that very much, sir.
Armstrong would have the honor to be the first man to step foot on the moon, cementing his place in the history books. But Aldrin gained on out first with the camera. Almost every single photograph taken of another human being on the moon in the Apollo 11 mission was of Buzz Aldrin. They would spend just over 21 hours on the moon, 2 hours and 15 minutes of which was actually re-entered the Eagle, carrying more than 20 kilograms of lunar rocks and dust, and began to prepare for ascent back to the command module. After the Eagle was repressurized and the helmets were removed, Aldrin took a photograph of Neil, his eyes watery and a smile upon his face. They just accomplished the most difficult task in the history of the world. The Eagle ascent stage then began, reconnecting them with Collins for the journey home.
Apollo 11 Houston, you're cleared for landing.
And the hundreds of thousands of people who had worked on the Apollo program had fulfilled Kennedy's mission of sending a man to the moon and returning him safely to Earth. The astronauts were then put into quarantine for 3 weeks, as NASA didn't know if they had brought back any pathogens from the lunar surface. They were then given a hero's welcome, as 6 million people gathered to see them in New York's ticker tape parade.
For the eyes of the world now look into space, to the moon, and to the planets beyond. And we have vowed that we shall not see it governed by a hostile flag of conquest, but by a banner of freedom and peace. We have vowed that we shall not see space filled with weapons of mass destruction, but with instruments of knowledge and understanding. Yet the vows of this nation can only be fulfilled if we in this nation are first, and therefore we intend to be first.
The Apollo kiosks on new zoo science, and millions more dreaming of becoming astronauts themselves. The science and technology developed in the Apollo missions paved the way for the modern technology we live on today. Digital computers, keyboards, software and smartphones. The legacy of Apollo is tremendous. The Apollo missions aren't just the best acts of the 20th century. They're the greatest technological, scientific and human achievements of all time.
The Saturn, the Columbia, the Eagle, and the little EMU, the spacesuit and backpack that was our small spacecraft out on the lunar surface. We'd like to give a special thanks to all those Americans who built those spacecraft, who did the construction, design, the test, and put their heart and all their abilities into those crafts. To those people, tonight we give a special thank you. And to all the other people that are listening and watching tonight, God bless you. Good night from Apollo 11.